This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Richardson for candidates running for Richardson Independent School Board of Trustees, Single Member District 5. This forum was recorded via Zoom on April the 7th without an audience. 3 candidates are running for Richardson ISD Board of Trustees, District 5. All 3 candidates are participating in this forum. Only registered voters living in Richardson ISD's District 5 are eligible to vote in the District 5 election. District 5 covers most of the Lake Highlands High School attendance area and some of the Richardson High School attendance area. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that never supports or opposes a candidate or a political party. If you are interested in joining or donating to the League of Women Voters of Richardson, visit our website at lwvrichardson.org. Membership is open to everyone of all ages. Membership is not just for women. More voter information may be found online at vote411.org and our website, lwvrichardson.org. Printed voters guides should be available in Richardson public buildings and Dallas County libraries the week of April 18th. See our website for locations. I am Ellen Steger, President of the League of Women Voters of Richardson. Before we begin, I need to review the format for this forum. All candidates have agreed to abide by some basic ground rules. The candidates will show respect to the other candidates, refrain from personal attacks or charges, and respect the time limits. The candidates will have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves, 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will rotate going first. The public was polled to supply questions for this forum. Requests were made on social media and on the Richardson League's website, as well as through emails. Many thanks to those who submitted questions. Each of the 57 questions submitted were reviewed. A committee of 8 people met for over 6 hours to determine the questions to be used in this forum. Questions have been screened according to the League of Women Voters of Texas Guide to Candidate Forums. The League did not give the questions to the candidates prior to this forum. The timekeeper for the evening is from the League of Women Voters of Richardson and will be visible on the video at all times during the question and answer segment. The timekeeper will signal with a green sign when 30 seconds remain, with a yellow sign when 10 seconds remain, and with a red stop sign when time for answering the question has expired. Candidates, can all of you see the timekeeper? Steve Mitchell will moderate the forum. Mr. Mitchell served on the Richardson City Council from 2005 until 2021 and served as mayor during the 2007 to 2009 term. Prior to his city council tenure, Mr. Mitchell served on the City Plan Commission for 4 years and on the Sign Control Board for 10 years. Mr. Mitchell has served as the Richardson representative and chair of the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition, the Richardson Addison representative on the Regional Transportation Council, and as a Metroplex Mayors Association member. He was a gubernatorial appointee to the University of North Texas System Board of Regents and the Commission on State Emergency Communications. Mr. Mitchell is a graduate of Leadership North Texas, Inside RISD, Leadership Richardson, Citizen Police Academy, and Citizen Fire Academy. He has been a member of the Richardson Rotary Club, where he served in a number of leadership roles. Mr. Mitchell is a director of tax compliance for a multinational mass media and information company. His wife, Karen, is a nurse at a major medical center in Dallas. They are the parents of 2 boys and 3 girls. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Ms. Steger. I'm going to introduce the candidates now. The candidates have each have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves. Introductions will be in ballot order. Rachel McGowan, as you are the ballot position number 1, you will go first. You have 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself. Ms. McGowan.
Uh-oh, she's for, oh, there she is.
Ms. McGowan, you may begin.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to
No.
unphrase myself. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Can you hear me still? What's that? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Am I frozen? Okay, we're good now. Can you hear me now? Yes, okay. All right, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. My name is Rachel McGowan, born and raised in District 5. I attended Stoltz Road Elementary, Forest Meadow Junior High, and graduated from Lake Highlands High School in 1996. I have 3 kiddos, a daughter who graduated in 2019 from Lake Highlands High School, went to Moss Haven, Forest Meadow, Lake Highlands High School, and a 14-year-old son who is going to be a freshman at Lake Highlands next year. And I have a 3-year-old who will be 4 soon. So we are looking at preschool programs for her coming up here shortly. I am running for this seat. I've contemplated running for a board for about 4 years now, and sat down and got some advising on how to go about doing this and how I should prepare my life to do this and what that looks like, how actively involved you need to be in the community. I've been actively involved in PTAs every year since my kiddos have been in school. So since 2007, I'm currently the chair, the DEI chair for the Council Board PTAs. I was the vice president of our PTA at Forest Meadow last year. I'm the DEI chair for Forest Meadow this year. And yes, I know that makes me really nervous. I sit on the sidewalk committee for City of Dallas. Adam Magoo appointed me to the sidewalk committee for the City of Dallas. And I am currently still involved with day-to-day activities at our school. So I'm running because I have to stop. I can't talk anymore. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown, Kyle Brown, you're in ballot position 2. You have 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself. Mr. Brown.
Great. Good evening. Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters in Richardson for putting this together. It's a great event. I'm the son, grandson, and nephew of career educators. I'm the uncle of an elementary teacher, cousin of a junior high basketball coach, husband of the horse whisperer of preschool teachers. And you could kind of say this is the family business. Somehow it missed me as an educator. But I grew up just outside the super small town of Adrian, Texas. It's about 50 miles west of Amarillo. And our school was the hub of the community. I mean, we had, in Adrian, there were 3 churches. There was one school where the whole community came together. After graduating from my class of 6 in Adrian, I went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. I was on the tennis team. We qualified for the team nationals in squash. That's the indoor racket sport, not the vegetable that your mom made you eat. And I was also held the role of vice chairman for education on the cadet honor committee, and which is one of the highest cadet positions actually elected by our classmates, which is a tough group. After graduating from West Point, I served as an officer in the field artillery. I held various positions within the same division, commanded by folks like Norman Schwarzkopf, Barry McCaffrey. And then when we left Savannah, Georgia, and looked for a place to move in Dallas, Lake Highlands greatly appeared for our family because of its diversity. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Jan Stell, you are in ballot position 3. You have 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself. Ms. Stell, go ahead.
Thank you for this evening. It's fun to get to see faces that we've heard about all these years. I'm Jan Stell. I have a master's in education. I've actually taught in Richardson ISD. I taught at Skyview as well as Brentfield. I've been a taxpayer to the school district for 40 years. I have a son that went from K through 12. He's now a proud Aggie engineer and has given us 2 beautiful grandsons. I've built a habitat house in Guatemala, have also worked as a volunteer for Prison Fellowship, going to the Seagoville Federal Prison once a week for 4 years. The YMCA that's in Lake Highlands on Greenville, I helped commandeer the land. was on the design committee and raised funds to get the front doors to open up, and of course now getting ready to remodel it. I am passionate about our district. I've been concerned about our test scores that have not been good. We consider ourselves a blue ribbon district, but our test scores don't show that out. So I would like, as an educator, to be on the board for our focus, again, to become academics so that we are that blue ribbon school.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stell. We'll move into the question answer period. We'll now start with the questions. Each of you has 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Question 1, Mr. Round, we'll start with you. Richardson ISD is one of many school districts in North Texas currently searching for a superintendent. How will you work with the entire board to convince a stellar candidate that Richardson ISD is their best choice? Mr. Brown.
Right. Well, a couple of things there, right? One is the criteria by which we need to determine how to select the best candidate for superintendent for our district. And then the other side of that is how to work effectively within a group of 6 other people who feel the same way. The first piece of that is to find common ground with regards to the criteria. And I think 3 of those that are really important to me in this selection is one, someone who's demonstrated the ability to improve academic performance across the board, both with top students as well as those who may be struggling at the bottom. The other is someone who's created both an enthusiastic culture for staff and faculty, but also one of professionalism, and one that provides support for young teachers, as well as a place to grow and flourish throughout their careers. And then also someone who's had experience working in economically and racially diverse districts would be really advantaged. It would be a big advantage to us. I have a number of years of executive search firm experience, which would address some of the process around this that will go to good use as we select the best candidate for our superintendent to help lead us forward with our ISD.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
Well, I'm hoping to work with the other 6 trustees in looking for someone that is strong, but someone that also is very caring of their staff. I think we have a great culture. We're very diverse. 57% of our children are economically disadvantaged. So we'll have to have someone that understands what it's the extra mile that it's going to take to bring all of our students up to their best level. It will be someone that will need to be positive and certainly put academics first. We know there's been a lot of political football in a superintendent's job, possibly as a staff and then also as trustees. We can help deflect some of that so that the business of education can go on for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure,
Please.
sure. Richardson ISD is one of many school districts in North Texas currently searching for a superintendent. How will you work with the entire board to convince a stellar candidate that Richardson ISD is their best choice?
Well, I think I would work with or encourage our board to be that this is a very much so collaborative effort. Like, we really have to work collaboratively and creatively when picking and choosing the next superintendent. The next superintendent needs to be an overly aggressive communicator within our community. Our community is dealing with a lack of trust right now with things that have happened in the past. And we need to make sure that whoever comes in for this position is a great communicator. That has to be one of the strongest assets that this person comes to our district with. I think one of the another important characteristic for this position would be someone who really knows our district well, someone who knows the culture of our school district, someone who knows the demographic of our school district, and know the overall landscape of how things work in RISD. We are a very unique boutique style school district, and it's important that they are very much aware of that. They need to have a very strong ability to create and build trust within our community and within the board that they will be working with. So communication, strong ability to build trust, and financial savviness totally for public school finances. We need to have someone who's very strong with public school finance and can help us really dig through the budget.
All right, thank you, Ms. McGowan. We'll move to question 2. Ms. Stell, we'll start with you. What policies, if any, could the board enact to improve teacher morale and retention? Ms. Stell.
Well, having been a teacher, being in the trenches, the main thing is support. Sometimes there's just not enough support staff to help you out when you need it. The other thing we probably really need to think about is teacher pay. They've been through the battlefield and stayed on the battlefield. And if we want them to continue with that fatigue, we're going to have to address some discrepancies that we have between our district and some of the neighboring districts if we want to keep our good teachers. It's, as they say, money talks. So I think we're going to have to be more businesslike in our endeavors on that. I did talk to the CFO about what it would take for a 1% raise. It does take about $3 million for our particular district. I think we need to start talking in those terms to be supportive of our teachers, because our teachers are part of our community and will be part of our success.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
Our teachers are our greatest resource for our school district. We've got to take care of the people that work for us and that are working for our children every single day. I think they are our greatest assets to the school district, and they are why RISD has always been a pillar and amazing school district. I would definitely want to take a look at maternity benefits and healthcare benefits across the board, and just maybe look at how many of our attract more teachers coming in. Are we attracting younger teachers to come into our district, looking at maybe maternity benefits and healthcare benefits? If not so many new fresh teachers are coming in, what can we do and how can we boost our benefit packages for our teachers that are currently within our district and working here and have been here for many, many, many years? Teacher pay is it's at the top of everyone's list across the nation. We've got to do something about teacher pay. I don't think we're doing enough locally. I don't think we're doing enough at the state level, and I don't think we're doing enough at the federal level. We've got to get aggressive across the nation's side to do something about teachers' pay. I think that is everyone's number one priority, and you've got to take care of the people that take care of you. Also, our 60 hours of unpaid training. A lot of our teachers, I've spoken to a lot of the teachers in our district, and a lot of the big complaints are the fact that they have to do 60 hours of training that they are not paid to take. So again, this wouldn't work in corporate America. It wouldn't work in corporate America. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. And Mr. Brown.
As far as some of the policies I think we could implement to kind of help improve the culture for our teachers in RISD. Obviously we'd love to pay everybody more. The challenge with that as a district is to get more money. We have to have a higher average daily attendance. That's just kind of the way that works. So some of the policies that we can do, when we focus on what we can control, if we look at implementing childcare, where we're able to provide childcare for teachers, where we're able to provide, more support from a healthcare standpoint, where we're actually able to reduce some of their share of what that's costing them, because a teacher today with just one child could be paying $800 a month in healthcare. And then also from an administrative standpoint is to help lighten the load, so they're not having to stay up all night reading paper or grading papers or planning, doing lesson planning. We need to implement some structure to how they're able to build those necessary functions into the course of every day. And then like you said, our mission is to train and equip kids to be ready when they cross the stage. We need to make sure that we're supporting our teachers in every way possible to be able to make that possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll move to question 3. Ms. McGowan, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts about the current EDI, which stands for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Policy, and its implementation? Ms. McGowan.
Well, I will tell you, like I've told I've talked to several community members here in our district and wanted to hear their concerns and how they felt about EDI in our school district. And I will tell you what I told one neighbor here. And I said, I really don't see why we have to have departments throughout our country set up for EDI. Why are we in this state? Why are we here, right? There's a reason why we are here. What those reasons are, that's not what we're kind of here to discuss. However, I believe that the departments should be set to make sure that every child, every student has the opportunity to excel and meet and beyond levels and goals and standards. I think it should be said that we're making sure that we're taking care of all of our children with disabilities. We're making sure all of the kids are gifted and talented kids. Every child is getting the opportunity to learn here at high academic excellence. I do support the EDI efforts because I do believe that they're necessary to make sure that every child has the opportunity and it's given to them.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, well, equity, diversity, and inclusion are key. And if folks don't feel like they're included, it's we've still got some work to do. Diversity, hands down, is possibly one of the greatest assets of Richardson ISD. The largest organizations in our country, whether they're public or they're private, work daily to recruit and hire a workforce that looks like the world in which we live. So RISD, with its diverse student body and teaching corps, is an amazing asset. Area employers want RISD to succeed in a big way. RISD is preparing future employees for the high-tech healthcare, security, transportation, logistics, and financial healthcare fields, just to name a few of these major opportunities for them to find jobs and roles in our community. My wife and I saw diversity as a primary reason we moved to Lake Highlands and sent our 3 kids to RISD schools. So I saw the positive results of having a diverse and equitable team during my time at West Point and in the U.S. Army. And I've worked for global technology companies for more than 20 years. This is the world in which our students will live, work, and if we do our jobs as board members, thrive. And so, helping make sure that diversity helps us along the journey. Equity makes sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute, and inclusion makes sure we all get to the destination. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
Well, as everyone knows, DEI is a hot button that so many people are talking about. I'll let you know that my son has told me since he's left home and is married and has children that he's so glad he was in RISD because of the diversity. His dad was a St. Mark's graduate, and we could have put Sam at St. Mark's, but chose not to do that. So it's a blessing to hear that he thought his education, knowing and meeting and being friends with people of lots of different ethnicities as well as religions was a benefit to him. So I can say that from a personal level. Again, my concern as an educator, we do need diversity, inclusion, and equity, but we also need to be able to read, write, and add and do all of those things, because if we're putting our students out into the world with one of their arms behind their back academically, it will be very difficult for them to succeed, whether they're going to be a CEO or a CFO, whether they're going to be the best plumber that I need to call and making $100,000. We have got to spend time on our academics. Right now, on our non-academics in Richardson, we're spending 2.5 hours a week. So my concern is, while our test scores are down, we need to refocus our cameras so that we do not send our students out with poor academic ratings. Right now, 38% of our kids can graduate in algebra to go into high school. That's unacceptable.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. We'll move to question 4. Mr. Brown, we'll start with you. The RISD has an instructional materials review process, which includes electronic resources, curriculum guides and materials, library books, outside programs, speakers, media AV, textbooks, ancillary supplementary materials list, a list of sensitive materials, and drama productions. Do you support the current materials review process? And what, if anything, would you change? Mr. Brown.
Yeah. Well, it is. There is a process, right? I mean, for every book you see on the library shelf, every book you see on a classroom shelf, all the media that you see, there's a lot of attention being focused on what's there. And so for a number of folks to raise this as a potential wedge issue from it's being elevated through some of the national and statewide media is really hard to understand when to look at all of the detailed work that goes into defining, just every single book that goes on the shelf. Even then, there are concerns. There are parents that have concerns, and they should take that up, with the school and school librarian directly, and work that through the system. And the RISD has a system for ensuring that student doesn't have access to that book if that's what mom and dad want, and that's fine. But what we can end up doing is end up spending all kinds of time around these books when we have professionals, like you mentioned, and a process to vet those. That sometimes we're afraid of what's really not there. It's the dark, so we're afraid of it. It boils down to really overall, fear of ideas and fear of books to a point of limiting them or even banning them. Typically hasn't fared well for societies or organizations that have done so.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
Well, you've hit on another hot topic that seems to be out there right now. Good for y'all. I don't know all the vetting of all the items. I don't think any of us would, but yes, there are some parents that are concerned about some of the library books, some of the books on shelves that their children are given 1 out of 10 to read. I think there's been a lack of transparency in the past, and I think we need to be partnering with our parents if there's a concern and not just telling them it's no big deal. I think that's degrading. I think parents are our best educators, and they need to be in our ring with us with their children. They're not our so that we are, if there are concerns about particular books, yes, we have to worry about freedom of press and freedom of speech. No one's going to burn books, but we also need to, if there is a concern about some books, be able to, as adults, look at some of those things and make some quality decisions on if some should be maybe put on the high shelf or whatever, so that they're not inappropriately, received by too young of a child. We do that with our movies. We don't just let our children roll into a movie. Now, if a parent does, that's their choice, but we do have some restrictions. So I think we need to look at our print media and things that are going on in our classrooms and be transparent.
Thank
you, Ms. Stell. And Ms. McGowan.
Yes, I believe that we should allow the professionals. We hire professionals to do a job, and we need to trust the process. I don't think that process comes without question. Rules were made, and people have questions. Questions should be allowed. However, I do believe that parents should be encouraged to be engaged. I do believe that should be done very civilly and respectfully. And we've seen a lot over the past couple of years that we've had a little bit of a challenge with that. So again, I do think we should allow the professionals and the experts in our schools and the system to do their job and what they're hired to do. We should respect them for doing the jobs that they do, because they do a great job at it. Parents should be encouraged to be involved and be active in those in everything their kids do. And if there are questions, they should definitely be allowed to ask all questions that they have.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. We'll move to question 5. Ms. Stell, we'll start with you. As a person elected to represent a single member district, how do you balance the interest of your district with your responsibility to RISD as a whole? Ms. Stell.
Well, District 5 has its own culture. And as we know, Richardson City and the city of Dallas, Dallas is about 60% of the population, and Richardson's about 40%. So we have 2 cities, and with that, again, a lot of diversity. I think we will probably spend a lot of time listening to our folks in our district to know what their needs, wants, concerns, and so forth. But when it goes to the 7 board members, then I think we bring our constituents' information, their concerns, their thoughts to that table. And then it's time to have a discussion, because then when it comes down to it, we have to do what's best for all students, no matter which end of the spectrum, where they live in Dallas, Richardson, high, low economic, and all of those things. So it's a real balancing act. But I think I can do that because, having been an educator, you've been in the schools and you are dealing with all different levels. But what you're trying to do is come out with a good end product that will be ready to go into this wonderful world-class city that we have called Dallas-Fort Worth, because we will have the jobs ready and waiting.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
I was born and raised in District 5. I know the culture of my school district better than I know the culture of any other districts in RISD. However, as a board member, we are chosen or elected to be able to represent not only our district and our neighborhoods and our community schools here, but also to represent the entire district. And we need to be able to do that on a collaborative scale. So I really see, as a board of trustee, I see that our role is to be that liaison, be that bridge builder, be that person that can communicate from the top down, and to hear the concerns, to hear the voices, to celebrate the victories with our community schools. Definitely not stepping on any toes of any of our other board of trustees and how they manage what they're doing in their districts. We allow everyone to be creative and have fun within those districts. But I think at the end of the day, we are the liaisons for our areas and our districts. We come back, we gather those facts and those concerns and the questions, and we go back to the table, we go back to the boardroom, and we say, hey guys, what did your neighbors say this week? I'm so excited to report back. Here's what our neighbors said in District 5. Let's work collaboratively and let's come up with a wonderful, awesome plan that will make everybody in our school district happy and getting our kids on the academic achievements that they need to be on.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. And Mr. Brown.
Yeah, juggling the interest of our District 5 with the interest of the rest of the district overall, right? I think a lot of the challenges that each district faces, certainly at the junior and high school level, are pretty much experienced across the board, from district to district, or from individual district to district. And so, part of what we really want to focus on is just raising the bar to ensure that every student has the opportunity to achieve their full potential. And we've got to challenge our best students, and we've got to focus preparation on kids that are struggling. We've got to marshal these resources to address those areas where reading and math comprehension in the elementary level is behind, where Ms. Stell alluded to algebra level, and out of 8th grade going into 9th grade has some real challenges. And so part of what we can do is help through communicating with our area and being good conduits of what we are doing as a board, but also be able to be conduits of where there are opportunities for us to work together as a community and to be able to pool resources from one to the other to help them succeed. And I think that all helps us grow stronger across the district as well as in each individual district.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will move to question 6. Ms. McGowan, we'll start with you. What is the role of a school board member in advocating for public education? Ms. McGowan.
The role of a school board trustee is to, number one, we've got to hire a superintendent. We are to levy taxes and make sure that we come up with a appeasing, wonderful tax rate. We are to set policy and ensure that goals are created and create accountability systems so that we can check against, we have checks and balances against that, making sure that we hold ourselves accountable for those policies, for those goals. I believe that we should be advocating for our district and our teachers and students at the state level when the time is right. I don't think there's ever a wrong time for that. I think we can find that if we do more advocating at the state level, we will be able to find ways in which more creative ways and strategies that we could bring back to the table of how we really go about achieving this closing this academic achievement gap. I don't think that we can close our academic achievement gap by just sitting together at a round table, coming up with creative ideas and strategies. I really think that this is a national issue. We need to be able to collaborate, listen, learn, and hear across the nation and be willing to listen at different ideas and see what's working in different places and, and figure out what's going to work for us here in RISD. We've all been dealing with a chronic issue of COVID. And I have to stop talking now.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I think as a school board member of a public school district, advocating for public education is it's almost like breathing air, right? It's part of who you are and what you are. We're seeing a lot of debate these days around vouchers and charter schools to be able to focus on some of these areas where we're struggling. And for that to happen, really, I look at this in kind of two areas. One is, what if everybody did it? And the second is, how does that look 20 years from now? So if we all just jumped out, took vouchers, tried to find a public school or tried to find a private school to use those vouchers, it doesn't work. And pretty soon there are subpar private schools popping up in every corner to try to take people's voucher money, essentially. So it just doesn't work long term. And obviously what it does short term is it just cuts the knees out from under what we're trying to accomplish within our local schools. There's a big argument out there around innovation doesn't scale in education. And so that's one of the biggest proponents is some of these think tanks put around, going the voucher route. And when you look at that, I think they're wrong. I think we can have systems for innovation and sharing best practices within our public schools. But when you look at that from a venture capitalist standpoint, you've got to look at it and say, well, I know 10% of my investments are going to pay off. Well, if we had 10% success in all of our schools, that's pretty unacceptable.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
Well, you asked what the role of a trustee is. Really, we only have three things. We hire and fire a superintendent, and we're working on policy, which of course that's a broad topic in itself. And then of course the budget. Just like every family, you have two things that are so precious: time and money. You're trying to figure out how to do a balancing act to get the most value for your time and quality time, as opposed to how do you spend your money. And sometimes one is getting shorted and the other, and so I think that's the same thing with the school district. And as trustees, we will be trying to not tax our taxpayers to death. The CFO said 28% of his tax base are retired. So and he said that's a larger, than normal. So we've got to be aware that we have many retirees in our district. So our monies are going to, since theirs are frozen, are going to have to come from other sources. So again, it's going to be a balancing act to keep good teachers. We do not want to see, which we've seen before, the billboard up that says, can you teach? come on at RISD. That's not what we want to be saying. We want quality teachers for a quality education for our children, all of our children. So we need a superintendent that understands that, as well as the trustees.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. We'll move to question 7. Mr. Brown, we'll start with you. If elected, how would you respond to a vocal group of stakeholders whose views you believe do not represent those of the majority of your constituents? Please elaborate. Mr. Brown.
Great. So to understand the question real quickly, just of how do I respond to a vocal group of constituents that maybe disagree with a policy? Is that?
I'll read it again.
Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. If elected, how would you respond to a vocal group of stakeholders whose views you believe do not represent those of the majority of your constituents? Please elaborate. Mr.
Right.
Brown.
Well, first of all, is the key in any disagreement or where we don't, where I think they don't agree with the rest of our constituents is to find a common, is to better understand it. If hopefully there's some reason and some logic behind how they feel, but it's key to understand kind of where that's coming from and what that motivation is. And a lot of what we're seeing, as far as wedge issues, when we peel back the onions, so to speak, is that we're finding out that, some of these wedge issues may not be as big of an issue here within our local district. But what is important to most people is ensuring that their kids are being educated and that they're given the opportunity to reach their full potential. And the tools for doing that, of course, are the teachers who need their support. And so I think it's easy to rally, the key in working with folks that maybe don't agree up front is to find a place where you do agree, and to take that common ground and build from there.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
A lot of times people that are really vocal are really angry. And I think we've got to take the time, and I have the time, to meet with them in person and listen, not just be an email back and forth or, what other forms. Because when you look someone in the eye, then there's a greater potential that you will understand them better and or be able to ask them questions to see where their words are, what their definitions are, because you may have your own definition for some of these words, and it may be completely different for that person that's coming, to you with these concerns. I think they want to be heard. They want you to be transparent with them. And then we aren't going to have all the answers. That's a given, but we can certainly take those concerns. And it may be that our policy does not allow for what they're asking about, but if they're heard, they have a better chance of acquiescing if what they're asking for is not able to be done for whatever reason, money, time, distance or whatever. So I think we need to respect our constituents, even if their voice is loud and is on a different page, but listen.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. We'll move to Ms. McGowan.
I don't believe the role of a trustee is to be combative. I believe the role of a trustee is to be a collaborative agent of the community. We are here to collaborate. We're here to gather ideas. We're here to gather facts. We're here to bring those things back to the center and say, what is going to produce better student outcomes? At the end of the day, our jobs here are to produce better student outcomes. Our parents and our community members are key factors in creating better outcomes for our students. We need their voices. Our children need their voices. Our teachers need their voices. There's not one voice that's not important in our community. And when we are not hearing all voices, if we decide that we're going to ignore some, we're going to ignore one, we're wrong. So again, our jobs are not to be combative, not to come to the table with a combative bias view of any side, but to be collaborative and ready to hear all sides and be able to discuss and listen and just be a great listener to the community members.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. We'll move to question 8. Ms. Stell, we'll start with you. One of the primary responsibilities of the Board of Trustees is managing the district's finances. What financial skills and experience do you have that will enable you to manage a public education budget of $500 million? Ms. Stell.
Those are big numbers, and probably none of us have personally had that kind of money in our checking account. I guess I would go back to my experience as a board member on the Y, because again, that's a collaborative type setting where you have goals and everyone is trying to work together. We had an older Y that was down on the other side of Northwest Highway, and they had a vision, and we have to all have a vision if we're with RISD, to build a new YMCA in Lake Highlands. We started looking in the Walnut Hill, Skillman area, because there were lots of some open land and so forth, but a lot of it was in the form of ditches and had apartments and so forth. And so we spent a lot of time there. One day I was driving north on Greenville, and I noticed that there was some land up on the hill. And I thought, well, I'll need to check that out, because we'd had our focus a little bit more in the central part of Lake Highlands. So what I did is I contacted the homeowner, Grace Myers. She was almost approaching 80, and she was wanting to sell and was wanting to stay in her property and as well get about $1 million for her adult children as a legacy. So I went home and thought, gosh, the Y only has about $500,000 pledged. And so we have quite a gap here. Let's think outside the box. And so sometimes you have to do that. So what I did was I helped them set up an annuity, give her some money. The annuity grew to $1 million, and Miss Myers got to stay in her 100-year-old home until she died.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. This is a great one. I currently manage about 300 customers. I am a sales executive for a really large corporation, and I manage about over 300 customers. And what we do is manage their budgets and help them create creative strategies and how to stay under budget for capital improvements. And so those are very large budgets, and we're working with a lot of money in capital improvements for their projects. However, school finance is a completely different beast. I understand that it's not like any other finance piece. It's very difficult to understand. It's very detailed, and it's unlike any other budget process. I believe that this is a time which we have to lean onto our state leaders for leadership in this area. And I know that there's a lot of training that board members do take after being elected. But I do think that this is a time in which we lean on our state leaders in providing the training that we need in that budget.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McGowan. And Mr. Brown.
Yeah, as far as my experience applicable to managing district finances, I've been a part of governance through playing the role of a deacon and on some key committees at Wilshire Baptist Church, where I've helped provide governance for a multi-million-dollar budget, along with supervision of an executive. From a business standpoint, I've worked for over 20 years with regards to profit and loss and being able to manage that with regards to achieving corporate goals and objectives. I've also been instrumental in developing and implementing complex new technology implementations across some of the biggest companies in the world. And also, as a part of that, ended up negotiating the contracts with those corporations, and as well as master supplier agreements and statements of work that all go along with that. So that gives me the experience that we need to be able to contribute day one from a ability to be able to help manage the district's finances.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll move to question number 9. Ms. McGowan, we'll start with you. How will you approach the current push to remove from school libraries and classroom books that some parents deem objectionable? Ms. McGowan.
I am a parent. I'm a parent of 3 kiddos. I have a 20-year-old who is going into her senior year of college. I have a 14-year-old who's going to the freshman center and a 4-year-old who is up and coming. I understand the concerns of our parents. There's nothing more I am concerned about than protecting my kids, protecting their hearts, protecting their minds. I understand that. It's critical. However, I do believe that we still have to leave it in the hands of our professional and our experts. Our librarians are professional experts. Our principals are professional experts. Our teachers are professional experts. We have to respect their duties as a parent. However, I'm very actively involved. I've been involved in the PTA since 2007, and I'm currently working in the PTA today. I am a hands-on mom. So if there is something I feel like my kiddos should not have their hands on, I'm going to find out about it. If they come home with a book, I'm checking backpacks, and I know some parents may not, and may be at work and don't have the opportunity, but I do believe that we have to hold our parents accountable. We have to hold our teachers accountable. We have to hold our students accountable.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry. No, all the news about banning books is alarming. I mean, some of these ban lists include To Kill a Mockingbird and The Diary of Anne Frank. And so it definitely takes some close scrutiny. I can't think of a single society in which being afraid of ideas has turned out well. Our district has a process of assessing books and learning material. If parents have concerns, they should bring them up to their local school building administration. And we should also keep in mind the difference between deference and all-out banning. I mean, if we make an issue of a book or publication and tell people, especially adolescents, not to read it, I mean, their natural inclination is to do just that. So hopefully parents will have taken the time to read whatever material or book is in question prior to bringing it to the attention of our district staff. You know, overall, this is more of an outside wedge issue that's come into Lake Highlands than something that's actually core to our community.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll move to Ms. Stell.
Well, I've learned when they fund a library that they order X boxes of books, and sometimes they get things that they're not necessarily choosing. When we have parents that have been vocal about particular books, I really think the parents are the first educator, and we should listen to them. And if there's a concern, can there either be a committee, a system where concerning books can be, like I said, put on a top shelf, or it can't be checked out without a parent, just as we would any other types of materials out in our free society. Some parents are going to want their children to see a particular movie, and others are choosing not to. So I think we need to value our parents as the number one educator and not just poo-poo them away. But right, there's so many wonderful books out there. Let's choose the better of the books and not pick marginal books if we don't need to. So let's take a look at what they're concerned about. And if they are marginal, let's pick books that everyone would feel good about their children reading at whatever grade level they're on.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stell. We'll move to question 10. Mr. Brown, we'll start with you. How can the board address lingering effects of the disruptions caused by the pandemic? Mr. Brown.
Yeah, well, one, we've got a good amount of money to help us deal with some of that, right? Through the ESSER program and a couple of others, where we've got in the neighborhood of about $108 million, which is helpful. Some of that's being focused in a number of areas through whether it be extra attention to special needs students, whether it be tutoring. And then also we've been able to fold some of that into to some of the stipends that we've been able to offer, some of the stipend money that we've been able to offer teachers earlier this year. So we're definitely addressing it there. There's also an element of kind of the psychological effect of what we've seen the last couple of years, right? And we're seeing that a little bit more in some of the recent articles in the Dallas Morning News and some of the other media, that it's really taken a toll on kids. And I've taught junior high Sunday school at Wilshire Baptist Church for 17 years, and this about a year ago, just a little over a year ago, these kids were usually they're ready to go and charge at summer, and last year they were just ready to just veg out and just take a break emotionally. And so we've got to also make sure that we leverage some of those resources to focus on those, and teachers as well, because people need a break, and just trying to work harder right now to make sure that we reach our academic goals is maybe not the best solution.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Stell.
Well, as we all know, the pandemic was awful. I mean, it was hard on everybody from the dog up. And so we do have the ESSER funds, and it is 108 million. We've already received some of it. Some of it's earmarked for social emotional learning. Some of it's for academic. We just need to make sure that we don't, in my opinion, spend those on programs, but get tutors. I have a friend that's doing that in tutoring in math, and she said her teacher's so delighted she's there because she's got kids in her class, their math facts are 3rd grade level, 4th grade level, and 5th grade level. And if you can imagine as an educator having that wide of ability or lack of ability in your class, it can be pretty daunting. And the kids really enjoy the one-on-one or 3-on-1 with a tutor to help them academically. Our hope and prayer is for everyone that our families will listen to their children when they've been through such a tough time, because it's unprecedented. We've all found out things about ourselves that we did not know, and hopefully we will get past it. We're all looking forward to summer, and hopefully we can be out and about and seeing people and friends and family that we didn't for a while, because that would be important.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
I think we need to really focus on teacher bonuses. Again, not just so much we pay our incoming teachers and lessen the compression rate between our new teachers and our teachers that have been with us for 10 plus years. Or I think we need to look at SAT school for SAT prep for our kids, and counselors I think are critical. I've talked to a lot of teachers in the district, and there's a lot been put on our teachers and in the classrooms because of COVID, and they've had to take on a lot of extra responsibilities that they just should not have to be taking on. I think if we look at our budget creatively and a little more responsibly, we may be able to find funds where we can do more hiring of counselors, because as we all know, COVID brought on a lot of mental challenges for not just kids, but for our teachers, for adults across the board in our country. So I don't think we should ignore the mental challenge and devastation that COVID had on our teachers and our kids and our society as a whole. But I do believe that counselors would be a huge benefit to our teachers and take off some of the stress in the class.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. We'll move to question 11. Ms. Stell, we'll start with you. What skills and competencies should a 21st century high school graduate possess? Please explain. Ms. Stell.
Well, to me, number one is academic. That person needs to be able to speak correctly, write correctly. Obviously, they're going to know technology just because of their age, but whatever they've learned at school. And they need to be able to communicate, whether that be on paper or verbally. It's such an important thing, whether you're talking with someone, negotiating. They've got to be able to step up to the plate. Again, I've said Dallas-Fort Worth is a shining example where we're going to have high-tech, well-paying jobs for those students that are academically savvy, that are creative and talented and have some step and hustle in them that they want to make a difference in their city. So we cannot put out students that are so weak that they do not have the foundation. That's why I'm so passionate about our second, third, fourth graders, that our academic foundation, you cannot build a house on sand. It does not work. It may look pretty, but when the rains come, the sand goes out and the whole house collapses. So we have got to refocus our efforts, energy, money, and time in that area because they're so critical. It's very difficult to catch up when you're in 8th or 9th or 10th grade. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Ms. McGowan.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I can. What skills and competencies should a 21st century high school graduate possess? Please explain.
Well, that's a really loaded question. It's a big question. But as far as skills, I think we need to we have to have kiddos that come out that are technologically intelligent. They need to know and learn how to use technology responsibly. I think they need to be socially intelligent, learning how, I think technology has taken away a huge connection, a human connection for our kids. They are so into technology. It's they were born with technology in their hands. My 3-year-old can operate a iPad. Shame on her mama, right? But that is the generation that we are living in. So we need to make sure that our kids can that they come away from this learning how to be responsible, technologically responsible, and that they are critical thinkers. We need to make sure that these kids leave here, not only can they use technology, but they need to be able to critically think about the processes and procedures every day that they're having to deal with.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown.
Yes, so some of the skills and competencies of a 21st graduate. I'd say the first of these is how to work with others, and that's could be as basic as being able to read and write effectively, but also includes being able to work with people who have different life experiences and who have different backgrounds. Second piece of that is how to learn, right? How to learn on their own, how to find out, whether or not what they're hearing is really a fact, or if it's just noise. How are they able to discern those things? And that's critical thinking. And then another side of that is they've got to have it helps to have a plan coming out. That just feeds into confidence and hope, to know that they have a plan for tomorrow, and they have a plan for hopefully, a little further past that, maybe years down the road, but at least they have a plan for tomorrow and how to get at least take the next step along with that plan. And then the other piece, which would be really wonderful, is just to be a good human, to know how to be a friend, to know how to interact with those around them, to know how to be a good son, daughter, brother, sister, and eventually, mother, father.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll move to question 12. For the last question, Ms. McGowan, we'll start with you. Do you wish to comment on the board's handling of the recent resignation of the former superintendent? Ms. McGowan.
I don't wish to comment, but I will. I think our board did. I think they handled it the way it should have been handled. They did what they needed to do with what they were given to do it with. Again, we had our board. There's work that the board does that community doesn't know and they see and that they're even aware of. So I think they did their best in working collaboratively in their efforts, and made the best decision that they could at the time with what they could do it with.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, as far as the handling of the departure of Dr. Stone, I'm not here to look in the back, in the rearview mirror. I'm really here to look and focus at how we improve learning outcomes for our kids to help them be prepared for that 21st century experience, how we support the teachers in that degree. I greatly appreciate all the board members for the time and the dedication it takes to put forth to do the work they do, and want to be involved in that personally as well. But for us to look back and just try to piece that apart, I think it's time wasted. We should look forward and focus on what we can do now, what we can do today, what we can do tomorrow to make our RSD an even better place to go to school and to be a teacher.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And Ms. Stell.
Well, we weren't a part of that process, so I think what went on behind closed doors, we're not privy to. So for us to speak about it would seem almost pointless. What we're doing is looking forward to the future, saying, okay, what can we find that will best suit our needs as a new superintendent, with that enthusiasm, that passion for education, and again, understanding the diversity, the size of our district. We're not huge, we're not small, lots of different opinions. And again, try to pick a superintendent that we know we can work with, protect hopefully from the footballs that go across their screen and their lives, so that we can be effective for our children and keep our focus on our children, our students, and of course our teachers that are part of our special community.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. And thank you, candidates. That was the last question. We will now move into closing statements. Closing statements will be given in reverse ballot order. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for a closing statement. We'll start with Ms. Stell. Ms. Stell.
Well, again, thank you for having us this evening. We are all ready for this campaign to be over. I'm sure my household is. The exciting part is that we have a new chapter, a new beginning. It will really be open to all the possibilities that we can dream. So it's really up to us to get a vision and a focus to make that happen. I feel with my education background, my master's, having raised a son in the district from K all the way through 12, not putting him in St. Mark's, makes me a prime candidate to understand what it means to have a classroom of kids, go home and do all the work and show up again in the morning, boots on and ready to go. As a trustee, it's a completely different job description. I got tickled the night we were taken up to the board, and they started with, okay, we want to make sure you realize this is a non-paid position, and that we think you will be spending a minimum of 10 hours a week and possibly 20. And kind of the giggle was, and does anybody want to leave? So none of us have left. So we're all in this race together to see who in District 5 chooses which of us to be the trustee to sit in that seat. So thank you again to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for your time, your planning, and we'll see you at the voting booth.
Thank you, Ms. Stell. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, no, we love RSD in the Lake Highlands, Richardson area. My family and I have raised 3 amazing kids through this experience, and while we're done with that, we want to continue to help, keep what's strong, and keep building on where we have opportunities to add to our parts of our community that are still struggling. And so, some of what, I have corporate and volunteer experience that prepare me to contribute into the work of the board on day one. I have years of executive hiring experience applicable to, task number 1 of hiring a new superintendent. I've provided governance for a multi-million-dollar nonprofit, and its executive is part of that experience. And, I believe that the work ahead is something that we can't come up to speed on, and that we need to get rolling right out of the gate. And so I look forward to the opportunity to serve our district and the people of District 5.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. McGowan.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in District 5. I attended all schools and attended all Lake Highlands schools. My kids have attended all Lake Highlands schools. My husband has attended all Lake Highlands schools. We are vested in this community. We are parents today. We have kids in this school district today. We have kiddos. We have a kid that has graduated from the school district. We have graduated from the school district. I am a product of Lake Highlands. But that's not to say I am any different from anyone else, any of our teachers. I am just like our teachers here. I am the face of the community here. I am the bridge between those that don't think they have a voice here and those that do have a voice here. The community knows my family. This community supported our family when we lost one of our dearest children in this community. And this community is was part of the story of what held us together. I am vested to be here. I'm not leaving here. I'm working here. I'm working in the PTA here. I'm volunteering my time here now, and that is never going to stop. So I ask that you vote for me for District 5 because I am Lake Highlands. I love Lake Highlands, and we are here to stay. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for hosting us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan. And many thanks to you, the candidates who participated in the virtual forum tonight. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting it. We'll just go through a couple of quick items here. Early voting in person begins Monday, April 25th and continues through Tuesday, May 3rd. You must have already registered in order to vote in the May 7th joint election. The deadline to register to vote was April 7th. Make sure you exercise your right to vote, and thank you for watching. Good night.